Welcome to the Luxury Rental Doctor Show. Guys, we are back. This is where we talk about the power of how we can explore real estate, especially for busy professionals looking to find financial freedom and balance in their lives, right? The elusive balance. I'm your host, Dr. Rachel Gainsbury. Today we have an extraordinary guest with us, Stacy St. John, founder of Cozy Getaways, author, speaker, mentor, and a powerhouse in the short-term rental world. Stacy, she not only grew a seven-figure portfolio in record time, but she is also empowering women. She's got a space for tens of thousands of women to thrive in real estate through her female short-term rental investors community and her STR Sisterhood podcast. So today we're about to share some insights on managing short-term rentals, mastering entrepreneurial mindset, and creating lasting impact. So let's dive in. Stacy, woman, it is so good to be here with you today.
Oh my gosh. Well, thank you for having me. And it is actually the pleasure is mine to be with you.
Well, Stacy, I know you from online. I remember there was a Facebook group that popped up one day for me and it said females investing in short term rentals. And I was like, hey, sign me up. And I saw this group grow exponentially. And I was wondering to myself, who is this woman? I want to be her friend.
And you are. I'm so glad you are.
Yes, yes. And you are so welcoming, just like you are to the women in the community. But I don't think everyone recognizes and realizes this. While you're building that community, while you're building your portfolio of short term
Mhm,
rentals, you also had a full time corporate job. Is that not the
mhm.
case?
Yes, that is very true. And I look back at that now and I I often scratch my head and think, wow, that was a little bold. That was a little crazy. But I wouldn't trade it for the world. I feel very blessed that I have been able to change my life through the power of real estate investing and serving and supporting other people. And at the same time, I have tremendous experience from my corporate gig that I previously had that I've brought over into my short term rental business. And that has been absolutely wonderful. So, again, wouldn't trade it, but I'm glad I'm no longer working in the corporate world.
Well, let's talk about that. So, what initially drew you to short term rentals specifically?
So I had been investing in long-term rentals
Okay.
for many years, and when COVID hit, as you might recall, there were eviction moratoriums that popped up
Mm.
everywhere. And my husband and I were actually finishing up a flip, and our intention was to reinvest that money into purchasing another long-term rental.
Mhm.
And we started second guessing ourselves, thinking, you know what? Maybe we don't want to buy another LTR right now with not having any recourse as a landlord should something happen and our tenant not pay their rent. So our philosophy was, well, if we buy a short-term rental, the folks have to pay in order to get in the front door.
Right?
And
Mhm.
so we thought, let's go ahead and buy a short term rental. So I did about 6 months worth of research and educating myself, and we landed at the beach. So we bought our first property in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. Actually, we bought two properties at the same time. And
Go big
I,
or go home, right?
right, exactly. And I very quickly realized, oh my gosh, I love this. Like,
Oh my god.
this is so fun. Now,
Yeah,
I love real estate investing. I love real estate.
yeah.
But for me, there's something magical, number one, about having property at the beach.
Yes.
Oh, darn.
Yeah.
I get to go check on my properties and have tax free trips to the beach,
Someone's
right?
gotta do it. Someone's gotta do
That's right.
it.
That's right. And then, as you well know, having the opportunity to host families
Yeah.
who are staying together and making memories together, there's something so special about that that I didn't expect. And the rest is history. I've, again, changed my entire life because of our real estate investments and our short term rentals, and absolutely love it.
Oh, so, so good. So, you're working your 9 to 5, you're thriving, you're doing your thing. What would you say was the biggest mindset shift or a shift that empowered you to think, "You know what? I love this so much that I may consider doing this instead of my corporate."
Yeah. It's funny. So for a couple of years prior to leaving my corporate job, I had begun feeling the wear and tear of constant travel. I was
Mm,
in a sales and account management role, traveled quite a bit for work. And you know how it is, having kids and a family. I felt like I was constantly being pulled in different
yeah, yeah.
directions.
Mhm.
And so I felt very trapped though, because
Mm,
I earned a very nice salary.
yeah.
And I felt like I had the elusive golden
Golden
handcuffs,
handcuff.
wrapped
Yeah.
around my wrists. So I wasn't sure what I was going to be able to do to really get out of my current state. And for a while, I just told myself, "Well, you don't have a choice. You're not gonna go start over at another corporate role." I'd been with this company for years, and, I didn't wanna start, from scratch at a new company, and at the same time, my husband and I were looking at our long-term rental portfolio,
Mm.
thinking, "We gotta have way more properties in order to replace our income," right?
Ooh, okay, so
And
can we pause there for a second? I wanna
yeah.
say this for those who are sitting in the back, right? This is
Mhm.
the advent, I think, of where we see the machismo of the investors, like, "I've got 100 doors, I've got 200 doors, I've got 300 doors." Well, you kinda need that if you're cash flowing 50, 100, $200 a month, right?
$50 a month, right, exactly.
Right. And so that's why I think this is such an important conversation to have. Our members are thinking to themselves, well, Rachel, I can't manage 50 doors. You don't need 50 doors with short term rentals. You may need it with long term rentals, but not necessarily with short term rentals. So say that for us one more time about what it would take for you and your husband to cut back or even retire.
Oh, yeah. I mean, we were looking at from a long-term rental perspective, we would need 40 to 50 doors
Yeah.
just to replace my salary,
Yeah.
right? Let alone his,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Um, and when I first again discovered short-term rentals and and immersed myself into it, not only did I love it, I found joy from it,
Yeah.
but I found from a financial standpoint, it was a game changer
Yeah.
for me.
Oh, I love that. I love that. And so you loved it so much that you decided, let me grow a community of women of over 60,000 who are like, how do we go from there to there? So your female short-term rental investors community has grown to over 60,000 women. What inspired you? What could possibly inspire you to start this group? This is amazing.
Yeah, it was again, a very random thing that occurred. Um, I have my real estate license in the state of
Mhm.
Ohio, and I had been investing at the beach for about 6 months, and I was connected with other real estate agents all around
Mhm.
the country, and I had a gentleman reach out who was located down in Texas, and he had said, "Hey, Stacy, I have some clients who are buying property at the beach,
Mm,
and they're buying them as short-term rentals, and they're asking me questions that I don't know how to answer.
mm.
Can you help me put together some information for my clients? Just how to operate a short-term rental, what considerations they need to be thinking about when buying a short-term rental." And I said, "Sure, hey, no problem." And I started to make a list of what I thought would be relevant. And then I was like, I've been doing this for a little bit of time. I'm going to pop into another Facebook group and just ask other people, what would you want to know? And I had popped into another Facebook group for women
Yeah,
real estate investors.
yeah.
And when I asked that question, the floodgates opened. I
Oh
mean, there were
my
hundreds
gosh.
of comments, and someone said as a comment, "You should start a Facebook group about this."
Oh my
And that's
gosh,
how I got
no
started.
way.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, I wonder, Stacey, if I could, like, let's turn back, like, take the DeLorean back. I think I saw that comment. and then you drop the link, and then it was a flood.
Yeah,
It was like,
yeah,
"Yes, this
yeah.
is it." Oh my god.
It was, again, very, very random. But I will say this,
Mhm,
what I realized after I started that Facebook group
mhm.
was something incredibly powerful that really lit a fire inside my belly. We
Mm,
are all continuously learning.
yeah,
It doesn't matter whether you've been in the industry 1 year, 5 years, 10 years, 20 years. If you're worth your salt, you're always wanting to improve,
yeah.
right?
Mhm,
And so I found it tremendously amazing that I could learn from other people who were
mhm.
members of my community and also be able to pay it forward and help others who were newer be able to learn from my own experiences. And so that's really just been, it gives me goosebumps to think about that because it's really self serving in a way that I feel really good when I help other people. And so the fact that my community has grown, it makes me feel really good a lot of the time, if that makes sense.
Oh, it does, it does. And so, what I love about your community, you stay updated. You ask, your members, what are they working on? What do they
Mhm,
need
mhm,
help with? There's always a conversation happening. So
mhm.
it's not just one of those Facebook groups with random people. It's not a dead group at all. And so one of your key skills is managing short-term rentals out of state remotely. You mentioned you live in
Yeah,
Ohio. You launch your short-term rentals in
yeah.
South Carolina,
South
right? Yeah,
Carolina,
Myrtle Beach, Myrtle Beach.
yeah. Mhm.
Why I drew a blank all of a sudden.
Gotta go back to 7th grade geography, right?
I just froze in the middle of nowhere. So this is real, guys. We're not pre-recorded AI technology. We're real
Exactly.
people with our fumbles and foils. So can you walk us through for those of our members who they're in California, they may have to invest out of state. They're in Hawaii, where the cost of
Mhm.
entry is not the greatest. They may have to invest out of state. Could you
Yeah.
walk us through some processes or systems that you like to use that keeps everything running as smoothly as possible, even when you're not physically present?
Yeah, absolutely. A couple of things I think are important to mention is that I have a team. I built a team around me from the get-go.
Yeah.
And so, we talked about mindset
Mm,
from even when I was working in the corporate world and I was starting this real estate portfolio on the side. I have had team members around me from the start. And I think one of the biggest pitfalls, and I'll get to the systems and processes, but one of the biggest pitfalls for entrepreneurs is they try to do everything themselves. And that is the exact opposite than what I have done. I have invested in hiring teams of people to support me and my growth goals so that as I expand my portfolio and expand what we're doing, I don't have the growing pains and the stress that comes with it. Not to say I don't ever have growing pains, but um, they're they're mitigated, shall we say.
mm,
When it comes to systems that my team and I use, a lot of my team members are, well, all of them are remote compared to where I live, right? But I do have global talent. I use talent from all around the world. So, communication platforms, we use WhatsApp for our internal communications. Um, I obviously have a property management software that I utilize. Um, Personally, I use OwnerRes, but there are so many different PMS platforms that are out there and really serve people where they need it. Again, I would encourage your listeners to have a PMS platform that they're utilizing, and there are fabulous ones out there. We use Monday.com as our centralized business hub and utilize that for owner onboarding, everything from tracking invoices, claims, property information. It is really, really, again, kind of our go-to hub. And we've got some amazing boards that have been built out for us that just make things flow. And try to keep things simple as much as possible. And then, of course, we have our own set of documented SOPs, policies, and procedures that are continuously being refined and added to. I also want to encourage folks to just start documenting. If the thought of developing a standard operating procedure for something in your business seems overwhelming or daunting, just break out Loom, record what you're doing as you're doing it, and you will find yourself, before you know it, having a library of training videos that you can utilize in your business. You can also transcribe those. I know there's other resources like Tango and other things that will build out the SOP for you. Um, so many wonderful pieces of tech that can really support you building out a robust set of operating procedures that, again, can be game changing in your business.
That is awesome. Oh my goodness. So many questions. So, first and foremost, you started off, Stacy, sharing with us that you believe in the who, not necessarily the
Mhm,
how, which is a
mhm,
book that I recommended reading
mhm.
for our community. So sometimes we need to find the who. So you're investing in yourselves, yourself. You're bringing on experts to build that roadmap for you, so that you're not experiencing some of the pitfalls that many of us experience when we're getting started. You're investing in team. You're bringing talent alongside you to help support you. And I want the audience to understand, Stacy didn't just wake up this way, right? It started with one team member. Am I
Mhm.
right, Stacy?
Correct, correct.
Yeah.
I initially brought on one team member. She served as my co-host,
Mhm.
and she's still with me today. She's not a co-host any longer. She supports revenue management within our team and really has tremendous institutional knowledge of my business and serves as a resource for my 24/7 concierge team. When it comes to bookings, guests, reservations, or properties. But her main role today is revenue management.
That's amazing. And so that's what I want to encourage our members. You just start with one.
Mhm,
Day one, you're the one, right? You wear all the hats initially,
mhm.
until you realize, well, what are the tasks that I'm responsible for on the day to day basis? And once you start documenting, just start documenting. Stacy said, just start documenting. That's where I started as well. So the two prong effect is having the team and also having the systems. And with the systems, I read a quote once that said, you don't rise to the level of your goals, right? We don't rise to the level of our goals, we fall to the level of our systems. So
Yeah,
systems are, would you agree with that, Stacey?
absolutely. Absolutely. And you can build a system to achieve your goals.
Yeah.
So again, like a lot of people, I'm sure you've experienced this too. They look at where you are and think, "Oh my gosh, Rachel just has this magic pixie dust that she just sprinkles and then amazing things happen." And I believe that when you have a strategy first approach, you build out a strategy to achieve anything that you want in life, um, you can absolutely achieve it. You can
Mhm.
absolutely achieve it, but it takes building out a strategy and following a system, um, so that, um, the tough things don't seem tough. It's just a constant one foot in front of the next, one foot in front of the next until you
Mhm.
achieve what it is you want to.
Oh, I love it. I love it. So, what I found for members in our community who are just starting out, they're recognizing, wow, there are some moving parts, right? With
Yes.
there are a couple moving parts, right? We'll just say a couple. But there are so many moving parts with managing your own short term rental. And I highly recommend that everyone manages their own short term rental to take advantage of the tax breaks that are out there, especially to start off. And then we can take it from there to see if that's still a good fit for your life unless you are leveraging a midterm rental perspective. So
Mhm.
let's rewind a little bit. So when we're starting off, Stacy, can you share with our community what have you seen as some of the most common pitfalls or misconceptions that a new investor makes, and how would you guide them to avoid these?
That is a great question. I think one of the most common misconceptions is that investing in short-term rentals is passive, right? Because we know it is not, right? And I think another misconception is that, oh, I should just have to do everything myself. Even if you're self managing, you can build resources, systems, processes, teams around you so that if you have, let's say, 3 hours a day to dedicate to your short term rental business, make sure that those 3 hours you're operating in your genius zone. Where
Mm,
is your sweet spot? My sweet spot is not necessarily um, putting things in an Excel spreadsheet, right?
mm,
So what do I wanna do? I wanna delegate that work. I can build a process for how to easily delegate my work, right?
mm,
And so that's my genius zone. But make sure which with whatever time you have to dedicate to management of your business that you're operating in your genius zone, because when you operate in your genius zone, um, again, that's when magic can happen in your business. And so I think so many people try to do everything or
mm.
try to do things that aren't in their genius zone. Maybe it has to be done. I personally don't like bookkeeping. Okay. I know bookkeeping has to be done.
Yeah,
I'm gonna outsource that puppy,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
so I think again, knowing what what areas and skills you personally excel at and you delegate the rest of that work, even when you're self-managing, is tremendously helpful.
Mm. I love it. I love it. And I think it's even more important when we step into our entrepreneurial journey because the 9 to 5, the good thing about it is they a lot of them, they have systems in place. They
Mhm,
have the teams. They've built all of those things out. So we have to shift our mindset. It's
mhm.
crucial when we are balancing that W-2, the 9 to 5, the 1099,
Yep.
work along with starting this on the side, right? This was supposed to be a side hustle for me and you, lady, but it is now the whole hustle.
It's the whole
It's the
hustle.
whole hustle. So what would you say were some mindset shifts if you're looking back now? Or could you give me one or two habits that you found to be absolutely essential when you started?
I think the biggest mindset shift that I had along the way is that I can do anything I put my mind to.
Mm,
And
mm,
I've always been a very goal-oriented person.
mhm.
But I've always been the person who second guesses, right? And so there's this
Mm,
conversation happening in my brain.
yes.
At the beginning of my journey, I read a book
Mm,
called Inner Size, and it is about the concept of neuroplasticity.
mm,
And when I learned about neuroplasticity, I'm sure some of your doctors are going, "Well, of course, neuroplasticity. I know what that is." I just actually learned about it about 5 years ago. But when I understood the power to rewire my brain,
mm,
I now could have my brain working for me instead of against me. So the awareness of that was transformational, right? Um, that was really, really huge for me. And I feel so bad. I'm sitting here talking about neuroplasticity. I'm thinking, what was her question?
Oh my gosh, I'm so engaged. I don't know my question, no. I was talking about some mindset shifts. What are some
Yeah,
changes or habits, 1 or 2
yeah,
things that you felt, really moved the needle for
yeah.
you? Mhm.
Thank you. Thank you for the reminder. Clearly, I need more coffee.
Take a sip, my friend.
Um, so I think also time blocking was
Oh,
huge for
yes.
me. Um, you know, Again, early on, I was working in the corporate world and my 9 to 5 was extremely busy
Yeah.
and I had a lot of responsibility.
Mhm.
And so I had to be very strategic about if I needed to tend to something in my short term rental business, blocking off that time.
Mhm.
Um, as you and I know about each other, I'm a very early morning person, right?
Yep.
And so also knowing when you are at your creative best
Mhm.
was really, really helpful for me. So personally, knowing that and also time blocking allowed me to build out my calendar so that I could make as much movement in my business as possible with the limited time that I had, if that makes sense. So I
Mm.
really tried to combine that when am I most creative? When am I at my best? How can I block my calendar and produce the biggest results with the time that I
Mm.
have?
Oof, that just struck a chord. I felt gut punched because a lot of us we have that 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. shift or the 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. shift where we are giving our absolute best
Mhm.
you too. And that's okay. They're keeping the lights on and we want to give
Yeah.
them as much as we can. But when it comes time for us to think about our business, to focus on our business, to make that movement that you just shared, we push it off to maybe next weekend, maybe next year, and we just keep pushing it off. And we're not giving our level best when it comes to something for us, for our
Mhm.
legacy, for our own future. We're building somebody else's legacy,
Right,
somebody
right.
else's future. Wow.
Yeah.
Well said.
And I also think too, um, even if you say, "I want to accomplish whatever the outcome is this week, this month, this year," whatever the case might be, get up every morning and tell yourself, "I am so happy and grateful that I am accomplishing this goal."
Yeah.
The more that we recite our goals aloud, eh, or write them down,
Mhm.
and, I learned this from a book, about falling in love with your goals, right?
Ooh.
Having a relationship with your goals. So every morning I get up when I head to the coffee maker, I'm saying my goals out loud. I'm training my brain, my subconscious mind to actually receive that information, store it in my computer, and then you begin to start seeing things naturally or organically happen in your life and in your business. So that's another habit that I think has been really helpful and impactful. And it may sound kind of woo woo and silly, but
Mm-mm.
I encourage your listeners to try it.
I am here for it. It wasn't until I wrote down my quit date that I actually made movement. I ended up quitting 6 months prior.
Mhm.
So I
Mhm.
said it out loud, I wrote it down, I actually pasted it on my office door, and I would see that date every single time.
Mhm.
And so there's power, in reciting our goals. There's power in saying it out loud. I have some of the wildest goals right now, and so wild that I was afraid to say it out loud. And now that I say it out loud, I just say it and I look like the crazy lady just talking crazy. And I and I'm here for it. I believe it's gonna happen.
Mhm.
I don't know when, but it will. And so I
Yeah.
love it. Ah,
Yeah.
that's good. That's so good. Okay, so before we shift gears a little bit, let's talk about the big F word, failure.
Fear. Oh,
Oh, fear or failure. Yeah, both.
okay.
So we do have the fear of failure. Have you experienced in your life? I know we kind of we're supposed to talk about fear, but I just switched it on you. I just switched it on you out of the blue. Stacey and I are friends, y'all.
We
Okay,
roll.
we
We
go on
roll with the
vacation
punches.
together. Yeah, I just felt like, you know what? What if we talk about that? Because there is a fear of failure. Have you experienced, say, a campaign where you thought it was going to go one way and it didn't go another way? A property where you thought it was going to go one way and you said to
Sure.
yourself, "Oh my gosh, this did not occur as I had
Intended.
expected." I see
Mhm.
you're here, you're still standing, you're alive, so could you talk about that? Give us
Yeah.
an
Yeah.
example.
I think probably one of the best examples would actually be about team members.
Oof.
Um, so in our world of short-term
Yeah.
rentals, our cleaners,
Mm.
our in my opinion, one of our most valued assets to our business. And I actually had a cleaner that was cleaning multiple properties for me
Mhm.
that quite honestly was not cutting the mustard. And I felt very trapped. I was afraid that if I let her go, she had so many properties in my portfolio. Like, oh my gosh, how can I find another cleaner that can um, manage this many properties? And it's very difficult to hire great people. And so for a while, my cleaning reviews, my guest experience was lowered because I was afraid that I couldn't find a replacement for her.
Mm.
Um, and that was a disservice to me, and it was a disservice to my business and my guests,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And so I look back on that now, and again, I think any time we have a failure, we have to learn from that it's a learning opportunity. And it is just that.
Yeah.
Um, Failures will happen. And I believe we have to fail forward so that we learn from the experience, we build a process or some sort of system or make a mindset shift so that failure doesn't happen again.
Mm.
Um, but I think failures, are bound to happen, and I think the true failure is when we don't learn and continuously optimize and get better and grow from it. Um, so I think that's probably my biggest failure and fear that I had was about I I just can't I'm not gonna be able to find anyone, so I just let it happen, and that wasn't the right choice.
Mm. So good. Oh, I have been there, done that. So, guys, take notes. We have to cut ties as quickly as possible because your cleaners are the cornerstone of a hospitality business for
Yeah,
sure. So, that's
yeah.
good. All right. So, Stacey, you have something big, right? Oh, pun intended, pun intended.
What are you
Something
doing?
big
It's
to
over here.
announce. You've got an amazing book that is coming out soon. Live Big, an
Yeah.
entrepreneurial's playbook to boss up your business, show up for
Mhm.
yourself, and step into your dream life.
Yes. I'm so excited. This has been a passion project, and you know how it is. It is something that you dream about and
Yeah.
putting down on paper all everything that's swirling around in your brain. And so I'm so thrilled about it. It should be out by the end of 2024, and super excited about helping other people understand the true value and potential that they have and unleash that within them.
Oh, I love that. Can you share a little sneak peek of one of the lessons or stories that the readers can
Mm.
expect from it?
Oh gosh. One of the lessons I share is the importance of surrounding yourself with
Mm.
the right people in your life. And again, we oftentimes cannot control our coworkers.
Mm.
We cannot control who our family members are, right?
Mm-mm.
But I think being very choosy with your friends and the circles that you run in is tremendously important.
Yeah.
So I talk about that, but also share tools if you are around negative people who do bring you down. What are ways to mitigate that and to not let that pierce through you, where you can really uh, deal with a situation or with a negative person or a negative being without letting it affect you internally. So, again, that's one of many lessons that I talk about in the book, but something that's been helpful for me to learn in life. And I feel like it's like 50 years worth of life lessons wrapped up into a couple hundred pages.
Oh, I love it. I love it. And I couldn't agree with you more. Goodness gracious. And I'm so grateful I get to surround myself with people like you, Stacey, for sure. So we're going to land this plane, but I do want to get some rapid fire questions in here. Stacey, can you share a moment when you felt completely burnt out and how you overcame it?
Well, girlfriend, I love to travel. Okay. So, one of the things that my husband and I do is we take vacations regularly.
Nice.
And whenever we're feeling burnt out, he actually feels burnt out more often than I do because I love what I do every day.
Mhm.
Right. But if ever we're feeling burnt out, we try to plan a trip.
Love that.
And even if it's a weekend getaway where we can just kind of get out of our regular routine and enjoy something around us. And I always love planning the trips to the beach.
Yeah.
So
Love that. Get away, a cool
get
little
away.
quick getaway. Get away from it.
That's
What's a
right.
book or resource that completely changed your perspective on life or work?
Yeah. Yeah. The book Inner Size by
Mm,
John Asseroff was, absolutely life-changing for me, and that might seem really strange to say about a book, but
mm,
I've probably read it 5 times.
mm, mm.
I practice what he preaches daily still to this day. And if I ever saw him or met him, I would give him a huge hug and just thank
Oh,
him because it was life altering for me.
love that. And what is the craziest real estate story that you've heard or experienced?
Okay, now this is a really interesting one. So I love to buy ugly properties and rehab them and fix them up.
Mhm.
And a good friend of mine, Maria Reith, she is a member of my community and mastermind program. She was telling me about a property she recently purchased, which was an ugly property and had been previously inhabited by hoarders.
Oh, boy.
And the hoarders decided that they didn't want to throw out their food waste, like get up to go to the trash can. And so when they were tearing out walls, she found a whole wall full of chicken wings, like chicken wing bones. Like, you know how you eat a chicken wing and then you throw out the bones? They threw them in their walls. Is that not crazy?
That sounds like a lot of work compared to Whoa.
I know. Who does that? I don't understand. I
Oh,
don't understand. But that's definitely, I think, the
chicken
craziest
wings on
story.
the wall, and I think that's the craziest one I've heard on this show, so thank you.
I feel very
You win.
honored.
You win the I need a trophy, like, oh my goodness, chicken wings in the walls.
Yeah.
I You can't make it up.
You can't make it up. Probably the craziest story I've ever experienced with a short-term rental is
Mhm,
a lot of my properties are in resorts, so
mhm.
very large high-rise buildings.
Yeah.
And one of my guests, who is a repeat guest, decided that he wanted to stand out on the balcony in the buff, okay,
Oh my
above the pool. Okay, where all these little kids are down there playing. So the police had to come and remove him from the property. I assume they took him to jail. I don't know. But that's probably my craziest experience personally. Again, who does
Sir,
that?
sir,
People, keep your
why,
clothes
sir?
on. Okay, keep your clothes on.
I don't think we're asking for too much. Throw the
Exactly.
chicken wings in the trash, put on some clothes, like, that's it, it's just 2
Right.
rules.
That's right. That's right.
Oh, Stacey, it's been such a pleasure having you today. Can you tell our community how do we best connect with you? How can they find you, woman?
Oh, the best place to find me is really on my website, which is staceystjohn.com, STACEYSTJOHN.com. Of course, you can find me online on Facebook or inside the Female Short Term Rental Investors Facebook group on Instagram, YouTube, all the places. But I just thank you for having me. I absolutely we are part of the Mutual Admiration Society. I think
Yes.
you are just a tremendous force and you should be super proud of everything you're doing.
Oh, thank you, thank you. I stand on shoulders of giants, Stacy. And thank you to our listeners, guys. Definitely check out Stacy and her community. We will add all of the links in the show notes. And I want you to remember this, guys. Taking control of your future is not just about financial freedom or just the money. It's really designing a life that you're proud of, a life that you're absolutely passionate about. And so I'm Dr. Rachel Gainsrew. You have been listening to the Luxury Rental Doctor Show. Until next time, keep investing in your dreams and your own well being. Love you all to the moon. Bye bye for now.